Om tare tu re soha. So I was scrolling through my Instagram yesterday, and I saw a post on India Moore's page called "Boycott DL Men," and it essentially was a call to action for trans women to no longer involve themselves, to get into entanglements with DL men. For those of you all who aren't familiar with the lingo, DL means down low, and it's used to describe typically a cis male who is not being open about their sexual attractions. I'll put a link to the post in the description below so you can read it for yourself. But there was one part of the post that particularly inspired me to make this video, and I'll read that for you now. It's at the end. And if you're a trans attracted man reading this, you need to stand up for trans women. You need to publicly declare your love for us. You need to normalize loving us in your male communities. You owe it to us. And we're not going to fuck you until you change. Sounds very fair to me. So when I read this, I was actually reminded of an incident that occurred to me several years ago in San Francisco. I got into my Uber and I had been listening to the whole controversy around Genuine refusing to kiss a trans woman on a reality television show, I think in the UK. So I get into the Uber and this case is on my mind, so I decide to ask the driver what he thought. And it was a young black guy. And he flatly told me, "Nah man, I would never date a trans woman. I like pussy too much." Those were his words. And immediately I felt a tightness in my body, a familiar fear. It kind of reminded me of the transphobic and homophobic and gender violence based jokes that I would hear when I was a kid. And at this point in my life, I was very comfortable with my attraction to trans women. So there was a tightness of, ooh, I wonder, is this guy going to like do something to me if I start saying how I feel? If this guy is going to start judging me, if he, what is he going to think? And in a moment of clarity, took a deep breath, and I decided to walk through that fear. And I said, well, I'm attracted to trans women. In fact, I'm attracted to cis women too. I'm just attracted to women. And then he looked back and said, really? And I said, yeah. What happened next blew my mind. He looked at me and he said, my sister is trans. Really? And then we spoke a bit about his feelings regarding that, how he was wrestling with this deep love and compassion that he has for his sister, but also this shame from a society, a culture that demonizes trans people. And then he said something that surprised me even more. He said, I think I'm attracted to trans people too. Whoa, wow. I was completely floored. And what I have come to realize is that me speaking, me walking through my ring of fear of being in my authenticity gave him the space, let him know it was okay to be in his, which was an acknowledgement of his attraction to trans women. I can't speak for every community, but what I've noticed in the Black community growing up is that within our culture, there seems to be a deep scar, a deep wound in our relationship to the feminine energy. This wound often manifests itself as violence towards our sisters, as well as violence towards our own feminine nature, to the point where we're told not to cry, to hide our emotion, to numb ourselves to our feeling bodies. I think it's all related. So yeah, I just wanted to give this testimony to other trans attracted men, and in fact, all men. You don't have to be trans attracted, but to walk through our own fear, our own gates of shame, to be vulnerable. Because I believe in that demonstration, we give our brothers the space to access their own vulnerability. I would love to continue this dialogue, to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your stories. So please comment below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more of my content, think about subscribing. I love you so much. Om tare tu re soha.